Tomorrow is Not Today podcast. I'm very excited about this podcast. This is a story that no one ever wants to tell, but unfortunately, I believe it's a story that everybody needs to hear. This one, I've got an incredible guy all the way from Broken Hill, which is pretty exciting. I never thought I'd have on some Broken Hill, so that's pretty cool. His name is Jason King. Jason, welcome to the podcast, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing to make the world a better place.
Yeah, g'day, mate. Thanks so much for having me on. What am I doing to make the world a better place? Well, I think what I'm doing now is working on a project called the Jordan Liberty Project, and it started as a documentary project in memory of my daughter, Jordan, who took her own life at 18 years old in March of 2023. And as part of that process of sharing her story and my journey, my healing journey, it's actually become an impact project as well. And I'm still in the process of trying to make the documentary. So that's kind of become a bit of a mission of mine I've got a background in filmmaking. And so trying to finance it and do it at the highest level to make the biggest impact has been a challenge in and of itself. And anyone who's ever tried to make a high-end film, albeit even a documentary, would realize some of those challenges. But what I found is that just by talking about it, actually activated this space for people to talk about mental health in a way that we didn't all realize was so necessary, particularly in our remote community of Broken Hill. And so as a result of that, I've been bringing impact partners on, and I've been working closely with a number of local organisations. Specifically, our official impact partner is the first one. I guess I see this as the beginning of the journey, really. The Flying Doctors through their wellbeing place and their mental health team here in Broken Hill in the southeast section of the New South Wales RFDS service, and they've been really supportive, and as well as other organisations in the community, and just looking at ways that we can really get that conversation around youth mental health in particular out there and talk about this stuff while we have the chance. And that's kind of, I guess, for me is really at the heart of what I'm trying to do is make encourage people, motivate and inspire people to be kind to themselves and create space for conversations that I really wish that I had been able to have with Jordan, but now is no longer possible. And so that film, the documentary is the film that I wish Jordan and I had seen while she was still alive. And the bonus is all these other things that I didn't even think about at the start, have now been happening, and it's just been really beautiful.
I want to start and say thank you for what you're doing. You're taking what to me as a dad would be one of the most horrific things that could ever possibly happen. And you're using your skill set to be able to go, you know what? Other people need to know and understand this better. I want to bring some education, some encouragement to other people, so A, they understand, and B, so that they don't need to go through it at the same time. And I think that's a huge, huge credit for somebody to do that. And I appreciate you coming on, because it's you sort of relive to a degree what you never stop living through day to day, but yet already from our chats, you've impacted hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly even more than that. And the plans that you have are just huge. And to get someone like the Royal Flying Doctor Service on board with you is incredible. So tell us a little bit, you did go over a few little things there, but tell us a little bit about the journey with Jordan through her life, and things that so other parents may see, notice and recognize things as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to shout out again to the RFDS because, like, not most people think of them as an emergency retrieval service, but what I've noticed through my time with them is just how much they're able to offer this sort of level of bespoke healthcare in our most remote and isolated areas. And sometimes they can pivot in places that other services can't. So yeah, I can't thank them enough for their support. And they were the first donation to my project was through that RFDS mental health team, and they're the first impact partner, and they've been really supportive. So yeah, I can't say enough good things And they're now supporting myself and the other participants in the documentary, as well as hopefully coming on the trip. So yeah, it'll be pretty exciting.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
um, to yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack when it comes to um, surviving suicide loss. Being bereaved by suicide is, as it doesn't matter who the person is, in relation to you, it's one of the most difficult things, if not the most difficult thing you can ever go through. And to lose a child that way has been like, yeah, it's indescribable. There's just no other way to put it. Um, so yeah, to get that out there, I suppose, is one thing. And I do want to share up front, if people are coming along for this journey with us, that my intention for all of this is to approach this, even though it's tragic and horrific and the most difficult thing that any parent can really go through if we stop and think about it. My intention for this chat now, and for every time that I'm talking to people about Jordan's story, is not to dwell on that tragedy and the horror, and to focus on how we can approach this subject from a place of love and kindness, and how we can use some of the more difficult and challenging aspects of Jordan's life and her story and what happened to her in a way that can really inspire others to make positive changes in their lives. And whether that's someone who's
Love
bereaved
that.
by suicide, loss, or whether that's someone who's going through a difficult time right now, that's it doesn't matter to me. Like, it's really important to just put that out there. But yeah, Jordan, I moved to Broken Hill in 2004 from Alice Springs, not knowing my ex was pregnant, and a couple of years later found out I had a kid. And so I didn't actually meet her until she was 20 months old. And I
Wow.
flew her and her mum across to Melbourne. I was in Broken Hill and actually just met someone who, Dominique, who we ended up getting married, but we'd only just met, and she came down, and it was a really interesting time meeting Jordan for the first time. But like, it was a shock finding out that I was a dad, and
Mm.
I thought, well, you know, she'd since moved to Perth by then. I was in Broken Hill. Neither of us could really, well, I certainly wasn't in a position to relocate at the time, and so I just thought, well, I'm a dad. I have a young person, a child. I'm going to go meet them and just see um, how it goes. And so I remember seeing Jordan for the first time, and it was just like, I was at the birth of both. I've got two other children with Dominique, and I was at their births, and it was a similar feeling meeting Jordan for the first time, just that recognition. And um, and yeah, I decided I did want to have. There was just no decision to be made. I had to be part of her life, and I had to have her in my life. So I set about doing that, and it was a really challenging time, navigating what became an increasingly acrimonious relationship, going through the family court system, paying for everything, still managing to try and live and manage a business. I moved here to take over Bell's Milk Bar, which is Australia's oldest milk bar, a 1950s joint, and
Oh, wow.
got into filmmaking after that. Yeah, so I was trying to run this up and down small business. Luckily, Dominique had a stable job and she supported me a lot of the way. But yeah, like, it was well and truly worth it. Looking back now, there's no chance it wasn't worth it. But it was a challenge, and I mean, to be honest with you, like, I thought that I had a documentary in me about this and a story to tell when Jordan was still alive, about just that grief that I was feeling, and a lot of parents feel, um, of all genders, for children who are still alive, and that time we lose, and particularly that early
Mm.
time. Like, Jordan never had a chance to know me. I never had a chance to know her during the most important bonding time that a child has with their parents, and that's really hard to move through. And the hardest part is, I guess, the kicker is that I thought that I had more time to do that, to unpack all of that and to go through that with her and help her and to get to know her um, as she grew into adulthood. And sadly, that wasn't to be the case. So she spent most of her time in Western Australia, come over for the school holidays. In the early years, we ended up getting like a month, 3 times a year, which I think is the most you could expect under those circumstances, and a really good foundation. And then we saw her every school holidays, and even though she wasn't scheduled, the kids weren't scheduled to be born, they were both born. Tommy is 16 and Charlotte is now 13. Were both born the day that Jordan arrives for her school holiday visits, 2 and 3 weeks
Oh wow.
early, respectively. So we all had this really amazing experience over here in Broken Hill, and then in 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 late in late in or early in 2020, Jordan moved over here um, after a previous suicide attempt, and it was a real big challenge because in February of that year, Dominique was diagnosed with breast cancer, and in March, as we know, of 2020, the world got locked down for COVID. So all of those plans that I had to nurture and support Jordan in her recovery and help her through, um, they just got attacked by real life and by this horrendous experience of trying to juggle all of these competing things and doing the best we could. And then, yeah, sort of ultimately she went to finish her high school here and got accepted into university and was having a gap year and yeah, things got really tough for her and she couldn't make it through.
Mate, that is quite like those few months in particular there is absolutely intense. Absolutely intense. Like there would not be a moment where you didn't have some stressful thoughts, very stressful thoughts going through your mind. How did you, I guess, deal with one thing after the other from a mental health perspective for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, looking back now, like when I think about it, if I go through and I describe everything that happened at that time, like if I told you it was a nightmare I had, you'd think, oh my gosh, what a nightmare. Like it really did feel like at one point I remember thinking like I've just come out of a living nightmare. Like, and there were times where it felt like that on the ground. And to be perfectly honest, there were times that I struggled to cope with it. The movie business was big here in Broken Hill. I do a lot of location management as well. So I make short documentary content and film content and also work on like location scouting and things like that for bigger productions. So at that time, the RFDS TV show was actually in town and I was working on that. And during COVID, filming was impacted in a lot of other areas. And we ended up with all these extra work out here. And the milk bar was like either completely dead or as busy as it's ever been. And you never knew when that switch was going to be flicked, as many of us experienced in our own endeavors. And in the end, the support was there. But in the moment, it was really hard. And it was also hard because Dominique was off getting a double mastectomy in recovery. And I was homeschooling and single parenting those two kids at the time, looking after our two kids and Jordan. And she was an extrovert, and was really struggled with being locked down and also getting to know like changing at school on the back of struggling mental health problems in year 10 is hard enough at the best of cases, with everything else going well. But if you imagine you chuck yourself into this COVID impacted breast cancer fueled experience and you're an extrovert and you just want to go hang out with your friends, but then even then, like you've got all of the school stuff that comes into it. It's a challenge. It was a real challenge. And um, to go
Absolutely.
back to your question, like there were times where I think my mental health was at the lowest point that it's been in my life during that period. And there were also times where I was able to take positive steps and things were better. And some of the things that I was able to do when things were better was to integrate regular exercise. At the time, like over that period, I did self-medicate in some pretty unhealthy ways, and I know it's something a lot of people do. And I was able to start the idea of cutting back on alcohol in particular, eating a bit more healthy, exercising regularly, um, drinking like 2 liters of water a day. And it's interesting looking back now when I think about it because that ebbed and flowed. And when I think about when things were better and when things were worse for me, it's uh, you know a scientist, mental health expert, or even like a physical health practitioner would probably say it's a no-brainer that the times when I felt better coincided when I was doing those things they tell us that we should be doing. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's
definitely.
that kind of thing. So that kind of really helped, and but I wasn't able to really fully um, embrace that. And after Jordan died, I really found myself back in that unhealthy place of self-medicating by drinking too much in particular, by smoking weed to try and cope with what was, such a really challenging time. And I certainly don't judge myself for that. But what I will say is that when I
Mm.
was able to find a place where I've been able to be sober, and experience what it's like to live my life from that place without those things, it's bloody hard. It's not really easier, but it's certainly better. And I've been able to, find. I don't think I could tell Jordan's story. I don't think I could be here talking to you if I hadn't found that place.
What you just said then is, I think, one of the most crucial messages that can anybody can get across at any time is the fact that you obviously had to fight really, really hard to get to that point of making those good positive changes and the doing the positive things for yourself. And like I said, I'm so glad you don't judge yourself for anything, because nobody, none of us have any right to judge anybody for anything like that at all. And we all have our own journey, that's for sure. And that's the fact that you're here now talking about this. To me, that in itself is a massive, massive thing. Massive kudos on that one. But the simple things of the food, the exercise, the water, these are things that people just bypass or don't even take much notice of at all for the most part. And yet these are the critical things. And like I said, anybody to do with physical, mental health or anything like that is going to tell you that this is some of the most basic things that are going to help us. There's so much research out there for that. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out and what it actually did. And you could tell the ups and downs by what you were doing with the habits that you put into your life.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, things like I ended up, the week Jordan died, um, Dominic and I were had just decided to separate, and I just sold the milk bar. Like I was in the process of the day after she died, I signed the deal to sell the milk
Wow.
bar, and so I was grieving already so much, and
Mm.
um, you know, it, yeah, it's no wonder, and I just did the best that I could at the time. But you know, to your point of the the healthier options and what we're told and what we know, what if we're honest, we know we need to do. Jordan, it was a constant thing for me with Jordan to, like, she didn't drink water at all. Like, I don't know if she ever drank water.
Mm.
She 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 did drink alcohol and she did use drugs and she did spend a lot of time on her mobile phone, and she did, um, like, I don't know, she walked around as kids do and they want to get from A to B and stuff like that in terms of exercise. But I was constantly at her, um, to, it was a constant source of frustration for me to see her and just to know that, like, and I don't know the exact science of it, but I'm sure that a little bit of desktop research would tell us that the brain is an organ like other organs, and that if we starve it of essential nutrients, it's going to let us down, like other organs are going to let us down if we don't look after them. And I think it's just so important for people to remember that, you know, if we're if you aren't sure, if you are struggling and you have the kind of thoughts that are, that pain of being, you do reflect on things when you lose a child to suicide, and you do think about suicide and learn about it and mental health in different ways. But that uh, intense psychological pain that's just indescribable. But unless you've been there, you probably don't even realize what it is. Um, you know, the brain is going to be, however hard that is to deal with, and whatever is going on, it must be easier if the brain is as healthy as it can be from a physiological point of view. And I know myself in my healing, my ongoing healing journey, just stuff like making myself exercise, even though I don't feel like it. And I can never get back from a walk or a run and go, oh, I really regret doing that. I mean, I might have hated doing it, but I never regret having done it. And I think, the same is true if you make yourself drink 2 liters of water, or you make yourself eat a healthy meal and skip the macas or whatever the case might be. So, but for me, like in my own experience, um, like, there's so many things that I wish. that I could do differently with the benefit of hindsight. And there's so many things I wish I could go back in time and change. But if I could just pick one, it would be to be kinder to myself, because I think,
Mm.
having found that place for myself, it's just so much easier to support others that in your life. And as a parent, it's so much easier to support my other children and myself, from that place. But it wasn't until I did those things, and I can't say that I'm doing all those things now, but the ones that I am doing, the difference it is making. So until you find that place, that you realize how much the beers might be actually impacting your mental health, until you've sort of got that cleaner outlook. And yeah, if anyone's on the fence about making changes in their own lives, I highly encourage you to give it a go and just see for yourself. Like, I actually thought I might give it a go for 6 months. Like, I committed to 6 months, and the benefits in my life are such that I don't really want to stuff that up by tampering with it. It's just working so well for me.
That is so cool. That is so cool. And you're right. When you're in the middle of it, we all know what we should do. And I think I don't know of anybody who doesn't pretty much on a daily basis fight with this, that sometimes we know what we need to do, but actually doing that can be a completely different story altogether. And that's why I think anybody who actually can actually get out and make that difference and do what they don't want to do, as opposed to what they should do, can is a massive. Even that in itself is a big accomplishment, a massive accomplishment. Tell me, you said one of the things you would do would be to be kinder to yourself. Can you give us some practical steps on what maybe how you weren't kind to you and what you would do to be more kind to yourself?
Yeah, and I mean, to your point too, of knowing what to do and not doing it, like, that's probably been the hardest thing for me. One of the hardest things about this entire experience. Jordan left. She did leave some journals, and I'm still sort of working out which bits to share and not share in terms of the documentary project. But like, one of the hardest
Mm.
things was to read that. She wrote this down. Like, words along the lines of, like, I know like, I'm not eating, I'm not doing this. I know everything that's wrong with me, and why don't I do anything? But yet I don't do anything to change it. And why don't I do that? Like, and it's like, just knowing she had that awareness, and seeing the steps that she tried to take to help herself, and knowing she still couldn't get there, is just like absolutely the most tragic part. And I look at her, and I see the person she was. Um, and she's such a beautiful person, and she really deserved to live a long and healthy life. And um, so many people have reached out to me over the course of this project to tell me they were in that place, and they have been able to find a way through, and they're no longer in that place anymore. And I think it's something to really focus on, is that when things are, however bad things are, whatever's going on for us, it might be ongoing for a while, but it's usually almost always temporary, and things will change. Even if you do nothing differently,
Mm.
things will eventually change for you in your life. But for me, in terms of being kind, I think, um, definitely the being, not drinking. And when Jordan died, I went and got a prescription for medicinal cannabis, and I was taking the cannabis oil and smoking weed and drinking, and to try and just somehow stop feeling the pain that I just can't put into words. And like, there came a point where I was just like, this isn't really going to help me. And I think now, like, so, um, my daughter, who's 13, like, she's an extrovert too, and she says the first thing that comes into her mind. And she's really beautiful, um, and I had her 50-50 with Dominique. And when I've got her, from the place that I've been able to find by being kinder to myself, I'm able to be a lot more patient with her. And with Jordan, we used to trigger each other, and it used to escalate, and it was a really challenging time for all of us. Like, the fact that we've all come through the way we have is like so. I feel like it's such an amazing, positive thing. But I think, yeah, for me, that's probably the biggest one when I say about being kind to myself. I think just, and then, like, through, I suppose, like, um, as part of that journey, because, like, It's only been 3 years, right? It's been 3 years, just over, since we lost Jordan. And I recently went to an event, and it had been like 18 or 19 years since they lost their 21-year-old, and everyone was still like really cut up about it, obviously. Um, and I was reflecting on that and just thinking like, this is something that's never going to leave me. And this is something, when you lose someone this way, it's part of you. It changes you, like it changes your molecular structure in a way that's not possible to put back. Um, and there's different levels of how you can move through that in your life. And like, I definitely didn't want it to be something that I dwelt on forever, and that I never got past, and that effectively ended my life as well. But um, I was reflecting on this. It's a bit like, if this pain and this grief is something that we were to, take out and look at and then put away. And for a lot of people, it's possible to put it in the cupboard behind the door, behind the books at the back of the shelf, and close the door and not look at it, unless you really want to, and then take it out and take the care to look at it. And I suppose, like, by me doing this project, of of it's almost like I've put this grief in a trophy cabinet, and I'm polishing it every day. And as I walk in the door, I'm
Mm.
seeing it every day. And so for me, being kind to myself has been learning ways to um, take care of myself as the custodian of that grief that I'm sharing with everyone, in order to help them and to make sure that I'm okay. And so I've been, seeing therapists who's been helping. I've been doing, one of the things that's been really helpful for me is art therapy, which has been supplied through the Flying Doctors Wellbeing Centre here in Broken Hill. And it's amazing how writing, like drawing, getting a messy crayon and finding, that place, but then drawing what you're thinking and feeling, as opposed to trying to find words to it, can actually unlock different layers of grief and express yourself in different ways. I've also been using songwriting and music as a way to just let those emotions out. And I think that's a key for me, is like, yeah, finding ways. Like, I think the alcohol and the drugs, it's a way that we try and push emotions down, and 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 get rid of them. And I think being kind to yourself is allowing all the emotions and all the parts of you to exist together. And it's not something that we really think about, particularly as blokes, but just generally, like, maybe we don't make time for emotions to sit with. Like, for me, I did go through a period of thinking, well, if I'm going to be so sad, how could I ever be happy? And now I've found a place where I can be sad and happy. And um, by just allowing the sadness to be there, and by allowing all of that emotion to be there. Recently, I've been exploring guilt, that old one, and I'd kind of looked at, like, pushed them all in together, thinking, oh, this is actually grief. But and I've been doing some EFT as well, the tapping, and that sort of helps. There's so much we don't know. I mean, maybe traditionally, like Eastern medicine in particular, uh, does know this, but like, there's so much we're now sort of finding out, and things like the nervous system and regulation and all this stuff is becoming more mainstream. But we've got these meridian lines, and they finish at these points, and if we just tap on them, it actually signals to our body that it's safe to express certain emotions, and it's safe to explore those feelings. And so, yeah, that's been something I've been working on as well. And when I say, like, being kind to myself, it doesn't mean it's easy. And I think that's something to really also make sure that we distinguish, because
Yeah.
taking the easy way out isn't necessarily taking the kind way out. And so it's been really, really hard. It's actually been really, really, really challenging this year, as I've finished some of the pitch materials for the documentary, and sitting with this immense grief coupled with the guilt, and then still trying to live my life. But definitely been able to be, happy and sad at the same time. Like, wearing these noise cancelling headphones, and I recently kind of realized that if you can allow everything just to be there, the love that's in your heart, the part of you that's joy, the joy that you can then find, actually acts like noise cancelling headphones for you, for your heart. And it's kind of like, if you're on an aeroplane and you've got the crying kid behind you, they're still there, but they you can you can hear your own music a lot more louder, and so it doesn't bother you anywhere near as much. Everything can exist on that aeroplane of emotions all at once, and I think that's for me probably the most important realization that I've had in my healing journey, which is still ongoing, obviously.
Jason, I think you've just given us one of the best psychological lessons around grief that I have ever heard anywhere. And I've heard a lot of them, and I've read a lot of them. And that was just brilliant. Like, I really hope people listen to that and go and execute on it, because you're not just talking theory, you're talking, like, to be able to work on a documentary every day where you've got to relive this. And like you said, you walk in the door and there it is sitting in front of you, because that's your job, that's your project, that's what you're working on every day. And everything that you're doing to get through this, to work it through, all that sort of thing. And what you were talking about there, obviously, some of those things are going to be a little bit easier than others, but nothing you talked about that I could see was easy in any way. Um, and it's just the way you talked about the thoughts and the feelings and how you dealt with them and worked through them in different modalities, I guess, is phenomenal. Thank you so much for that, because that's as practical and raw but deeply scientific and psychological as you're ever going to get.
I appreciate it. Thanks. And I think, too, like we try and, for me, the big change was rather than I was trying to fix everything, and just sort of letting it be there is actually, it sort of dissipates on its own. It's really, really amazing if you can find that place. And like one of the things that I always think about is, and from reading Jordan's notes as well, and from talking to people, is just how much we can, like, the most negative voices in our lives come from within. The most consistent,
Mm.
persistent, negative, critical thinking and critical. Like, yes, there are examples of outside influences that can affect us, but often it's our own critic, our inner critic, that's the harshest one and the most persistent one that we can never get away from. And I think we do try
Yeah.
and push it away. But if we can just accept that there is actually, like, well, firstly, with Jordan, like, if she just knew how loved she was, like looking around, when I look around and I just see how deeply her passing has impacted so many people and continues to this day, like it's heartbreaking. And to know that she didn't feel that way, that she didn't know that other people felt that about her, but more importantly, she didn't feel that way about herself. That's, I guess that's kind of that really is the heart of the kindness, is how can you tap the universe of love that lives inside you, that's greater than anything you could ever imagine, and allow everything that
Yeah.
everything that's happening to you to exist within that universe, that loving universe of self-love. Yeah, it's pretty powerful, and I find it like it's not always easy at all to get to, but if you can find it, it's so powerful. And um, yeah, it's a big message that I share with people all the time. It's just, if you just knew how loved you were, you are.
Mm, that
You
that
know.
that is a powerful, powerful message right there. I think that's the crux of the whole lot. It really, really is. There's a couple of things there that you mentioned. One is, instead of trying to push the grief away and the trauma, whatever it is, um, and this is one of the things that I've learnt to do, but also been educated around as well, is exactly what you're talking about. Don't try and push it away. Just allow it to be. It is what it is. We've got these feelings for a reason, and they do come out of. You don't have those feelings if you didn't and don't love somebody or something or whatever it is. That's what they come from. That's the basis of them. And unfortunately, it can turn into fear or all sorts of other emotions and actions that aren't necessarily a positive actions as well. So just almost embracing it, allowing it to be there, not push it away. But at the same time, you've got this happiness and there's joy and there's the peace that can be there, and they can be there at the same time. They can. It's really hard to. It doesn't make logical sense, but they can actually coexist in the same person at the same time. which I think is a massive thing. And one of the things there you said that Jordan didn't realize how loved she was, how many people actually loved her, and how much. Do you think that if we as humans were to tell other people in different ways just how much they're loved, they're appreciated, they're seen, they're noticed, they're welcome, do you think that would make a big difference in people's lives?
I would like to think that if people knew how loved they were, if you knew how loved you are, that it would make a massive difference. And I mean, look, what we do know is from people who survive a suicide attempt, um, a lot of people say they instantly regretted that decision. And, the moment that it felt like it was too late. And I mean, one of the things that Jordan's death has done for me, it's forced me to re-examine my spiritual beliefs, and I do believe that part of her exists beyond the physical. And if she could speak from there, she would she would say if she had a choice, a chance to come back and have another go, she had a time again, she wouldn't have done it, and she would have realised that things would have been different, and the best could be yet to come. The best could be yet to come for her, just like it can be for others. And that's the reason why
Yeah.
I'm doing this, because I don't want to be doing it. Like, really, I really don't want to be here talking about this. Like, it is actually challenging in a way that it's very hard to
Mm.
put into words. But like, it, I know that it's helping people, and I want people to think about it now. And I know that it's not always easy, and everyone's situation is different. But absolutely, if people knew how loved they were, and how much love there was for them, and I'll come back to that point that, like, even if you are, even if you can't think of a single person, you're all alone, you feel all alone, you can't think of a single person who loves you, whether that's true or not. It is a fact that there is more love inside you than you could ever possibly imagine, and it is there if only you look for it.
Wow. Wow. Can you say that again? That was very powerful.
Yeah, no, there's more love. I believe there's more love inside every single human being than any of us can possibly ever imagine. And all we have to do is look for it.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Jason, take me back to this is for the benefit of parents who have kids that are struggling at the moment. Um, this could be a little interesting aspect. Parents who have kids that are struggling in different ways. What are some signs, some things that people might notice that are like, hey, maybe I should take a bit more notice about that. Maybe I should put in, do something a little bit differently or whatever. What, from a dad's perspective, what could some of those things be?
Yeah, no, look, it really is a tough one. It's one of those things, and you look back and you see the things, and um, like, Jordan struggled with her mental health for a long time, and we sort of all knew she was struggling, and it was like a perfect storm for all of us at that time. But if I was to look back and try and pinpoint some of the things that happened to her, and I guess with the benefit of reading her journal as well that she left, and seeing, like, knowing from her inner world a little bit about what she was thinking and feeling, and she um, like, one of the hardest things for us is actually we had planned to have like an intervention of sorts, because we'd noticed, I mean, she was over 18, but she was still living at home, and she'd started staying out, like going out um, to the pub or to a party or something, and then not coming home till the next day. And that wasn't our rules. We didn't have a lot of rules, but one of the rules for our house was that if you're staying here with us, that you come home unless you prearrange something else. And so that also, I suppose, correlated with what we could tell was, um, more riskier behaviour all around. So particularly, like, feeling like she was partying a bit too hard. And we'd actually, made a conscious decision to have a chat with her about it. Um, like, hey, like, we're really worried about you, and like, we've noticed your behaviour's been escalating. Some of these things you're doing really aren't healthy. Like, how can we all work together to to support you to make some healthier choices? And um, you know, we were going to do it the weekend before she died, and life just got in the way. We didn't get around to it, and we're like, oh, well, it's all right. We'll catch up with her next weekend. And next weekend never came. She went out on Friday night and never came home. And I think a message that I would give to parents is like, if you think that there's something you'd like to talk to your children about, and you're worried about them, and you can do it from a place of love and kindness, um, don't wait till next weekend. Do it this weekend. I had a backyard home office that I'd go to most nights, and I'd come home, come back into the main house, walk. I had to walk past Jordan's store like every night, pretty much. And I don't know how many times it was, but it was more than once that I stopped. I could hear her in a room, and I stopped at the door, and like it was like a scene from a movie or something. Like I'm like, I just, for whatever it was, I couldn't. I didn't do that, and like now looking back, it's one of the things I really regret that I didn't at least attempt to talk to her. And I know that it would have been hard, and it was hard, and it was really toxic. It was challenging, like so much going on at that time for us. And like I said, I'm not judging myself for anything I did or didn't do, but with the benefit of hindsight, for people whose children are still alive right now, who they might be struggling with, it's so hard to know what to do. And if you go in too hard, it can also cause, like, who's to say what would have happened had we had that conversation? Like there's all different. Look, it's so challenging, and then children, teenagers, young adults, they don't want to know what their parents have got to say. They want to figure it out for themselves. And the challenge, I suppose, with that is
Yeah.
that their peer group becomes their main kind of source of support, and they're all struggling. Like, it's certainly in Broken Hill, like, a lot of people are really doing it tough mentally. We're more connected than ever, but yet a lot of us feel more alone. And so
Mm.
that's the backdrop we're all trying to work from. And just like a generation before, we didn't have smartphones, so when we were their age. And it's probably up and coming generation now that they've got young children right now that did grow up with phones. But like, it's something where there's a whole different range of challenges we're all facing, and just the most important one is to be there with them and have that conversation now. And I'm just trying to think what else. I mean, in Jordan's case, there was so many things. Like, if you look back, it really was a perfect storm. And she just started antidepressants, and she was in the higher risk window where the chemistry is all over the place, and you actually have a higher risk of suicide in that period. But she took them, and the reason she went back on them is because she was really struggling. And yeah, there's so many things. But the main one would be, like, if you're worried about your kids, like, and you think you would like to do something, don't wait till next week.
And you're right. As a parent, like having had 3 kids go through that sort of age bracket, you want to talk to them, but you're scared because you don't know what sort of response you're going to get. You're not sure sometimes how you're going to put it across yourself. Am I going to handle this well? And am I going to stuff it up? Am I going to say something wrong? Am I going to get upset? And all these things go through your head. And then again, it's like, well, what are they going to think? What are they going to say? Is it going to trigger them to something? And it really can be a very, very difficult thing. As simple as it sounds, like, hey, let's just go and have a chat with your kids. Yeah, it's a great theory. But the practicality of it sometimes is not necessarily easy at all. In fact, it can be quite scary. So I love what you just said then. If you want to, just do it. Doesn't matter what you're thinking, but do it well.
Well, and I think, like, back to the start of this conversation, it's something I never did, and if I have a time again, I would do, is like, take a deep breath. Like, just, even though you may, like, not everyone has all the skills all the time, but like, just going in with the intention of, like, okay,
Mm.
all right, I'm here. I'm doing this thing, talking to my kid, and I'm coming from a place of love and kindness for their best interest, and we're going to work together on whatever it is. I don't know, like if that's like if that like it feels to me like a good place to start, and a place from which it is
100%.
hard to say the wrong thing from that place. But if we just charge in there, like even if it's coming from a place of love and kindness, because we really care deeply about our children and we're really worried, if we come in there and we just got home from work and we just jumped out of like a 1 hour commute and like some idiot cut us off on the way, like, and we go and try and talk to our
Mm.
teenager, and then they've just been on, we've all been on our devices, or maybe we've had a couple of beers before we do it, and have that conversation, which is normal. We come home from work and we have a glass of wine, and we crack open a tinny, and then we have the conversation from that place, but maybe it doesn't go the same way, and it's the same conversation with the same intention. So yeah, I guess it's that would probably be my, if I could go back in time and change how I approached it, and if I can see the differences how I approach my parenting now, and the difference it's made, and I'm really lucky because uh, Dominic and I have a really awesome co-parenting relationship. We live 500 meters down the road. The kids still feel like they're part of one family, and the difference that it makes compared to like an acrimonious relationship with someone you don't talk to who lives on the other side of the country is, and the difference it makes for those kids is night and day.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, Jason. That is awesome. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing now. I know we've had a chat about it before, and I think it's absolutely incredible what you're doing and the people that you're influencing as well with it. Because this isn't just something like, oh, I'm going to go and try and see if I can get a message to kids. This is a huge thing that you're putting together to reach so many people that absolutely love it. So just tell everyone what you are doing at the moment, where you want to take it.
Yeah, um, so Jordan was born in Alice Springs, never went back there, and it was a trip that she and I were going to take. It was actually the one thing that we both were really looking forward to and really wanted to do, and just never got a chance between the COVID lockdowns and the, the crazy life that was going on at the time. And I hoped that was a chance, that would have been a chance for us to unpack all of those things we've just been talking about, and for her to really find her place in the world. I don't think she really felt like she fit in either family, and I can only imagine that's something that a lot of kids from separated families might come up against, particularly if both parents remarry and have other, half siblings, and especially if there's any sort of distance between the families, or if there's a different parenting style. So for me, like I wanted to take her back to where she was born and show her where she came from, and I hoped that that journey, that road trip, would have been a good way to sort of hold her captive in the car and have some of those difficult conversations that just come up sometimes when you are traveling in a car. It's actually a really good way going on a long car trip with the teenager, particularly if you don't have Starlink or mobile phone service. It can be a good way to actually
It
they
really
get so
is.
bored they start
Yeah.
talking about stuff. So anyway, I actually took that trip myself as part of my healing journey 6 months after she died, and I'm actually wearing her clothes right now. This is her shirt and her jacket.
Oh, that's so
And I
cool.
at the time, some of them weren't washed, and it was a way for me to really just, I guess, like celebrate the physical relationship that I had with
Mm.
her and let go of that and embrace the more spiritual part of the journey. And I met Dominic and the kids up in Alice Springs. We went and spent some time at Uluru and just grieved together and healed together. And it was such a powerful experience for me that I wanted to take and make this film and sort of share Jordan's story. And I thought taking that trip would be a really great vehicle for the film. And what I've found though is, like, in sharing this project, and I want to make this documentary and honor Jordan's life and use it as a way to help inspire others to make changes in their lives. The biggest supporters, the loudest cheer squad, have been Jordan's friends and the young people in our community who've told me just how
Mm.
much they need this and how important it is to us all. And so I've actually taken them with me I'm hoping to and planning to take Jordan's friends with me, as well as my kids, on the trip. Um, Dominique's coming
Wow.
along, and we're going to go to Alice Springs to lay Jordan's ashes to rest. And I've when I got back from that trip, I actually sent half over to Western Australia, so her grandmother's got the other half, and she is going to join me in Alice Springs. And so the RFDS are coming along with me the Broken Hill contingent. We're going to film that, and hopefully, as hard as it's definitely going to be, like I know it's going to be a really hard trip. If we can find the funding to bring the film crew along and film it, we're going to be able to tap into the heart of some of the biggest challenges that are facing regional Australians right now, particularly our young people and even more remote places than Broken Hill along the way.
That's phenomenal. And you're not just doing this, but you're actually doing work with schools and sporting clubs and things as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I haven't really gotten into that side of things so much. I mean, I've been talking in my local community. Just this week, I spoke at our Health New South Wales Staff Recognition and Innovation Awards. They invited me as their guest speaker to talk about Jordan's story. But I've partnered with Gravity Films, who made a film called The Last Daughter, which screened in like over 750 community screenings right around Australia, and they developed a school package for educational materials that goes with it. So it's certainly something that I'm willing to do, and I know that as time goes on, there'll be more opportunities to share in person Jordan's story with people. But I'm really hoping that we can get the appropriate funding that's necessary to make a high-end documentary film and all the associated resources, so that this is the kind of thing that, because it's one thing, like there's some great training opportunities out there for young people to help them to educate them about how to support each other, and for adults as well to be able to support each other, like mental health, the idea of mental health first aid. But I think like when we think about the statistics, unless you've actually lost someone personally, it's very hard to understand the impact that this can have, on our communities. And look, I truly believe if Jordan had more of an understanding of what the impact of her death was going to do to the community, and how, and certainly based on some of the feedback I've gotten from some of the people, in a circle, like who've just kind of just said, like, it's just, yeah, it's just obvious like how much it's impacted them. If we can just like show that to people in community and school settings, I hope that it's going to motivate and inspire us through the power of storytelling to be able to actually want to do the training and understand why we're doing the training when we do it. And yeah, that's definitely my dream for this project, is to get it to those places where, the statistics don't tell the story. Like we lose more than one young person to suicide under 24 in Australia every single day, and that's skewed more heavily towards regional and remote places. And so,
Really?
yeah, and then I think it's like 9 people of any age within Australia every day on average take their own life, and it's the
Wow.
biggest of any of the deaths. It's the most productive years lost of any other thing, and so I just think like we're losing, particularly because a lot of people die younger from suicide, and like I want to do everything I possibly can to try and help people appreciate just how loved they are, and like give us as much ammunition as we can to support each other and support ourselves through this journey of life. And look, at the very least, um, yeah, like just I make a decision to turn up more fully in our own lives.
Why is it so prevalent in sort of, I guess, outback or regional type areas?
Oh well, I mean, there's uh, out here certainly during COVID, we you know we did have that isolation was really apparent. Some of these areas can be more isolated. Like I do think, I haven't been fully across all of the stats, but like a lot of more isolated areas have high First Nations populations, and we know that suicide is a bigger issue than the general public in those communities as well. So I think that kind of thing can also impact areas out here. Um, but like one of the saddest things that's happened that I've found is just talking to young people and just hearing how much they're struggling um, across the board.
Mm.
Like, um, and it's not the case that all young people are struggling. young people are doing okay, but the amount of young people that are struggling has really shocked me, and because obviously I was focused on Jordan at the time, but yeah, now just sort of expanding the lens a little bit, looking a bit wider. Like it's a really big issue, and it is troubling that it's not. Well, I don't know if it's really changing. Like, and I guess like it is a very complex issue, right? Suicide, mental
Yeah.
health, it's such a complicated thing, and it's not like you can just build a new road and get rid of the black spot or make a better airbag for
Mm.
our brain, for our mental health, to be able to fix this. But I want to do more. I feel like as a community we have an obligation to support it, to do more. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I hope
No, definitely.
this can be.
I've got a friend who actually he's been doing it for about 30 years now, going out back, mostly working with farmers. Um, and some of the stories that he has is just horrendous. Like there's been numerous times when he's rocked up just as someone was about to take their life and saved that. And just little things because of they farmers, especially in the outback, and I'm sure you'd be very well aware of this, is they deal with pressures that none of us deal with. None of us would even think about dealing with. We go down, we buy our bag of peas and some potatoes and stuff, and we're all good, thanks. But these farmers are dealing with everything on a regular basis, and the amount of people out there that he has seen, that he has saved, and that he's dealt with over these years is incredible. And he keeps going back again and again and again, despite the fact that it actually takes a toll on him as well, as you can imagine, because out back is just such it's rife with this type of thing, sort of completely different types of pressures than what we in the city type and coastal areas actually have to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I was only reading the other day that yeah, every 10 days we lose a farmer to suicide in Australia.
10 days.
Yeah, one every 10 days.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, it is. It makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but it's understandable, and in some ways, like why there'd be different pressures. But yeah, it is an issue. I mean, the isolation and the loneliness is probably a big thing, right? Like we spend this back to that point of
Mm.
we're our own worst critics and we're the only ones there. There's no one to, or and often
Yeah,
we're out on the land out this way. There can be hundreds of kilometres to the nearest town, and it can be a really small population that you're part of. So yeah, like it is a big issue, and I think like focusing on supporting young people in regional areas is something that I'm drawn to just because you've got to, I feel like it's important to focus somewhere. But also like if we can help young people, then, that not only are they less likely to take their own life as adults and when they get older, but they're going to live more joyful, happier, healthier, and fuller lives and contribute more fully to society. And isn't that why we're all here? Like, aren't we all here to live a happy, joyful life
absolutely.
and contribute to
I'm
society?
so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that. That is exactly what it's all about. Exactly. Um, tell us if, because what you've just told us, your story and what you're doing, if people want to get involved with this project and the way that you're helping people, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, like if people want to get in touch, probably through social media is one way. We're on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. Um, the Jordan Liberty website is jordanliberty.org, and I'm doing my best to try and keep that updated. It's a bit more if people want to do a deeper dive. At the moment, even with the opportunities that exist to fundraise through the film industry, through traditional film financing, to be able to get the professional film crew up to Alice Springs is going to require some philanthropic and private support. So if anyone felt moved enough to want to chip in financially, then we're fundraising through Documentary Australia, and that, for anyone who's not aware, Documentary Australia only accepts projects that have social impact component. And once approved, people can donate to that and claim it on their tax as a tax deduction. So if you want to make a tax deductible donation, you can find the Jordan Liberty Project on Documentary Australia. And um, if if uh, if you can't do that, just following along and sharing it as far and wide as possible would be a great help. And I think what I've what I've been finding and what I've sort of realized is like I want to make this film, and I started out trying to tell this story and make this film with this big goal of doing that, but um, it's actually already making the kind of impact that I wanted it to make, but at the end of the film, like along the way. And I think that's a really important thing for us all to consider. Like sometimes we've got this endpoint to our journey that we think the journey is about, but actually the journey itself can be just as powerful and exciting as any of the endpoint might ever be. And so in this
So
case, that's
true.
certainly been the case. And you know, it was the case from the very first moment. So I actually put out a post about this time last year telling people I was making the film and opening up the donations for through Documentary Australia. And about 3 hours after that first post on Facebook, I got a message from a young person in my community who it just blew me away and hit me like in the most powerful way because they've said like hey, I just wanted to let you know, Jason, that I was just on Facebook, I was just on social media was actually on there I was having a really bad day and I was on there to delete all my accounts, if you know what I mean. And I saw your message and I realized that maybe the best could be yet to come for me. And it was like an angel was looking over me. And I just really wanted to let you know because I've called Beyond Blue and I made, you know, I've made a mental health care plan and things are a lot better now. And I really appreciate you doing this.
Wow.
And that was the first message I ever posted about it. And I always, I always thought, you know, before I started, like even if this helps one family to avoid, and that's kind of a bit I haven't really mentioned, like I, I just want to stop other people from having to go through what we're all going through, you know, from experiencing that
Mm.
pain. And even if you can help one family from doing that, then it's worth it. And like the very first message I ever shared publicly about what I was doing, um, potentially did that already. So I sort of knew I was on the
That's
right track.
phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal, and
Wow.
and since then, you know, I've still continued to get people with send me those messages, and you know, we're doing a project now, which I don't think I've mentioned, but a legacy project. So one of the things that those young people told me when they were talking about that like what you know just the whole thing is like where can we go and is there somewhere we can go when we want to be close to Jordan and obviously you know I feel like you can do that anywhere but there wasn't an actual place and I just thought well, what if there was a place that we could go to remember Jordan where would it be and out of that we've born this peaceful place for mental health project so our local arboretum which is like a nature reserve in the middle of town in Broken Hill next to the shopping centre it's had a lot of native plants and things in it. We're making a community labyrinth there, and people are going and making these hand decorated tiles. There's a local woman that made one over in Sydney, Suzanne Jones, and she's been leading us all in making decorating these clay tiles, which started in honour of Jordan and have now expanded to everyone in our community. And we're hopefully
Wow.
going to be able to make a permanent, peaceful place for mental health that can bring us all together in ways I never could have imagined when I started this project only 12 months ago.
That's so, so good. It's one of the messages I try to get across to people is that what you do doesn't need to be loud and proud and big and out there. You just start doing something and this is what can happen. And now it's not just one person doing an impact on one or two things, but there's a whole ton of people all around the place having a massive impact for so many other people just by doing a little thing like that. And that is absolutely incredible. I
Yeah,
love that.
it's bringing people together. It's not just the RFDS now. It's Headspace. It's Mission Australia. It's Lifeline. The VCYC. You know, Murray Health, the Broken Hill City Council, and you know we've got supporters from the the foundation, Broken Hill, and the Democratic Club, and like all of these people and organisations are coming forward and supporting us, whether it's through impact and joining together, you know, and things like applying for grants together to try and do this work together rather than doing it all in our silos, or whether it's actually forwarding community money for donations to help us take this trip and keep educating people further and keep sharing that story. It's just yeah, definitely it's definitely my view that particularly in regional areas, but I think it's everywhere. You know, like every industry, no matter what industry it is, benefits when we all work together instead of all trying to do our own thing. And I think that's probably,
Yeah.
the biggest downside from things like social media and technology. So great, it says that it's here to connect us, but it actually makes us feel more individual. And I think
It,
projects like this, being able to bring it
yeah.
physically, bring everyone together and sit down and spend half an hour making a tile for someone you love, that is going to live on, um, in this other project. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
a
right.
way to combat that and offset that.
So Facebook and Instagram, is it Jordan Liberty?
Jordan
Is
Liberty
that
Project. There's actually a
Jordan
makeup
Liberty
artist in the
Project?
States called Jordan Liberty. So yeah, it's not that one,
Okay. Yeah,
if
yeah. Okay.
anyone's wondering.
No, definitely not that one. Jordan Liberty Project. This will all be in the show notes anyway, and in the description on YouTube as well. Before we go, Jason, I really, really appreciate your time and sharing your heart and sharing some actual really good gold nuggets of practical steps for everybody to be able to take away and deal with things, which is phenomenal. Um, Two questions I'll leave with at the end. Number one, or sort of one question: how can you create the life you want and leave a legacy you're proud of?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think I was only reflecting recently, like, other than losing my daughter, which is a really big, other than, um, the life that I'm living now. After I sold the milk bar, and because I live in Broken Hill, I was able to buy a house, my dream Broken Hill house, and I reflected on, I remember in the past my goal was to, be able to work part time, to bring the money in, and then spend the rest of the time working on projects that my passion projects, that made a difference in the world. And I'm actually doing that. Like, I've actually found a way, to be able to spend most of my time working and energy, working on this amazing passion project that's making a really powerful difference in the world, and work part time to bring enough money in to pay the bills as well. And the result of that is that, that it is leaving a legacy for Jordan that any parent would be proud of for their child. And it's something that it's really actually pretty hard to articulate. I think the key of all of that, certainly the leaving the legacy part, is, the biggest change for me has sort of has come from actually finding something that is just, with every fiber of my being, I have to do no matter what, in the service of others, um, as a starting point. And to me, that's kind of been the biggest way, the biggest secret sauce in this whole thing. And
I couldn't agree more.
I'm so glad you have found that. Yeah,
Yeah, couldn't agree more. That's that has to be the start, the very beginning of it. Jason, thank you so much.
no worries.
Apologies. Really appreciate you coming on today, sharing your story, sharing, like I said, your heart and some amazing truths that we can just operate our lives by every day. Coming from the heart of love and kindness, thinking of other people as the start of everything that we do. It doesn't. That's the message right there. I think no matter what's happening, no matter how good things are, bad things are, whatever it is, that message right there is as good as it gets.
Yeah, if you start with that, you might even feel better in yourself as well, as a bonus.
Totally, totally. Thanks, Jason. Really appreciate it. Have a fantastic day.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Awesome. That was great, mate.
Yeah, thank you.
Just going to stop
I'm
this one.
assuming, I was going to say at the end, but I'm assuming that you'll be able to, mention, like, all those support services that are available for people. Like,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they are,
I've
if it does
I've
bring up
started
anything difficult.
putting yeah, I've started putting that all on my